What's going on, Bills fans? I am Lance Nelson, president of Built in Buffalo. This is the Triple Coverage Podcast. On my left, Scott Casson, and on my right, Benjamin Shoop. The Bills are limping into Indianapolis this week, heading into a showdown with the Colts. Gentlemen, how are we feeling on a nice, crisp Friday?
Feeling good. Sabres got a big win as well yesterday, and I think surprised some people. But hopefully another Buffalo winning weekend this weekend. But yeah, excited and ready to talk some Bills Colts.
Yeah, it's a lot of wrist injuries. So I don't know if I'd say limping. They're walking just fine, but a lot of wrist injuries, which is I don't know if I've ever seen more wrist injuries on one team in 1 week ever before. So yeah, definitely some question marks on the offense and the defense going into this game with just some injuries, like you said. So yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, real quick, we'll run through Keon Coleman out for this game. Amari Cooper, questionable. Reggie Gilliam, questionable with a hip. And Balin Spector with a calf injury was limited today and is now questionable. And on the Colts side of things, it's just Michael Pittman Jr. Being out with a back and finger. Everyone else that I see here doesn't carry a game designation. So let's start obviously with the Bills, and the main focus here is Keon Coleman being out and Amari Cooper being limited and at a minimum. And do you think, give me the quick thoughts on that? But I guess when you end it, let me know. Do you think Amari goes, and how big of a factor he can be in this game? Go ahead,
Yeah.
Scott.
Go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
Or Ben, go ahead.
Thank you, Ben. Um, uh, it's definitely worrisome if they're both going to be out, which I think is going to be the case. I don't think Amari Cooper is going to play. I don't even know if he's tried to catch a pass yet. He said that's the biggest issue is catching passes. And
End
as
of
a
his job.
receiver, it's a little bit important. I also don't see him being able to block all that effectively because that's how
Very
he said he
true.
got injured in the first place. And if it is a break, which they haven't said exactly what it is, but that seems like what it might be. That doesn't seem like the safest either. With the Chiefs coming up next week and then the bye after that, I feel like they rest him this week. And obviously that's a big hit to the offense because Keon was finally starting to emerge. Like you've been saying, Lance, later in the season, he's going to kind of find his groove. And that's exactly what was happening. Josh is trusting him more, throwing in those contested catches. He's making plays. So he's a big loss. And then you think, oh, okay, well, hey, they just got Amari Cooper. He'll just slide right in. But no, he's out as well. So they added Jalen Virgil, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But yeah, the receiver core is definitely being put together with duct tape and glue. And against the team, the Colts, they're sneaky, not bad, I'll say. It's definitely not an ideal situation.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it's good again. I know we've kind of been saying it all season with these injuries. It's good that they're happening earlier-ish. I know this is about the halfway point in the season, but you'd rather have them happen now and have them be ready for that time in the playoffs than have them getting hurt in week 17, 18 into the playoffs. I don't think Cooper ends up playing just because, like what Scott said, you might as well just wait until either KC, until he's even more ready to go, or even if, he's still kind of shaky for KC, you have that bye week after that you can wait, and then you go into the final stretch of the season fully healthy. So I don't think Amari plays. Keon, yeah, it hurts definitely because you already know that he, at least when it comes to the playbook, has been a guy that's been wanting to learn it and really wanted to learn. So now it's just the aspect of being out there and learning by playing that you kind of need him to be in there and be able to learn that way. And having him out definitely can hurt a little bit, but maybe it does kind of, as a rookie, give him a little bit of time to figure out those smaller details and get down everything else that he needed, for the rest of the season. We've seen him still struggle with certain kind of connections with Josh Allen. So maybe they can get on the same page in that regard. So when he is back on the field, that it's a little bit better. But both hurt, both are unfortunate. But at the end of the day, the Bills have a bigger lead in the AFC East, and even though even though losing this game would still hurt, it doesn't hurt as much as if it was, a 1-game lead, 2-game lead over the Dolphins. And at the end of the day, they could still win this game without either of them. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's the hope. I think overall, my thoughts on it are that that's a big blow to the offense. Keon being down is enough of a blow, but I think that the Bills' offense can still operate effectively without him in there. But we saw that it wasn't as easy to operate without Amari Cooper in there, and it hadn't been throughout the entire year until we got him. We saw one game with him kind of in there um, at more of a full go, and we'll see if we'll see what the Bills' offense is going to look like, having to lean on the run game for sure. So now the next thing is that Jalen Virgil gets signed, and that kind of, let's give your thoughts about that. I'm going to go first if you don't mind, and I just think that does kind of play into the Amari Cooper not playing, you know, rhetoric, because I just think that they would have just elevated a couple of guys, and now they know they need another guy on the roster with Keon out and probably Amari, and they're probably still going to elevate another person potentially, whether it's Hamler or Shavers to come in, and I'm assuming they're going to want to have 5 wide receivers available for the game. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they go with Virgil over a guy like, especially Shavers, who was the talk of camp. I mean, at least he was the big talk about how he impressed everybody and impressed McDermott, and even Hamler too, who has a little bit more experience, and then is a guy that people thought is very dynamic. But you've seen Virgil get called up, and now he's officially signed. So it kind of says something about Virgil, that they have a lot of confidence in this guy to be able to come and step in. So I'm kind of excited to see him. Even before, even the past 2 weeks, you've kind of seen him on the football field a little bit more than maybe we thought he would, even with Keon healthy and everything. So it's definitely something I'm interested to see how he is. I know that he's been around a little bit I forgot where he was before Buffalo. I want to say Denver. Yeah, Denver. But yeah, well, I mean, we'll see how he can play, and yeah, I think though it does say something that they're going with him over Hamler and over Shavers, at least for the official signing to the 53. So yeah, I'm interested to see how he does, and yeah, we'll see how he fits in.
Yeah, you figured when they made some moves to open up that roster spot that it was going to be for a receiver. Like, I saw some people saying like Yannick Ngakoue coming to the Bills, and I was like, I don't think that that's the case. I think they're just going to sign a receiver, but I don't think it's a great sign for how quickly we're going to get Keon back and maybe even Amari, because otherwise, like you said, they have 1 practice squad elevation left with him. I think KJ, I don't even know if he's been elevated yet, and then Shavers has 2 left as well. So could tell you these might be longer term injuries. But yeah, like Virgil's fast. He's not the biggest guy, but maybe can use him as a downfield threat. And if nothing else, it just like opens some stuff up for some other guys underneath. So yeah, like don't love that they had to add a receiver just based on what it can mean for the injuries. But I guess Virgil makes sense just based on he's been the recent elevation. So he's been the most, in the flow.
Right, and they couldn't elevate him again without signing him anyway, so they just made the move with the free roster spot either way. So it makes sense.
I do believe we will see Yannick Ngakoue this season, because I believe he just got claimed by New England. So going to New England, and we will see him trying to chase down Josh Allen for two of the last 3 weeks of the season. So
twice.
That's tough. You go from the Ravens to the Patriots. That's just maybe
it was a little bit shocking.
Good for him, but
it was a little bit shocking to see the Patriots were the team to claim him. Just don't really see how he fits their timeline much. You'd think you maybe want to see younger guys in that situation and kind of playing for New England when they're at that state. But hey, they thought bring him in, and he's their replacement for I'm blanking out who they just traded.
Uche.
Yeah, Uche. So he's their replacement, I guess. But
yeah, we also brought back familiar faces in Jordan Phillips and Quentin Jefferson guys. So let's start with Ben this time, I guess, and give your quick thoughts on the addition of bringing back those 2 guys on the interior. Obviously, you had Dwayne Carter going down on IR, and then you had Logan there getting demoted to the practice squad, basically. So you had 2 spots there open up for Jefferson and Phillips, and they're going to come right in. I mean, I assume they'll be thrown right into the rotation. What do you think?
Yeah, Jefferson was the one that as soon as I saw that he was cut, that one I thought for sure is coming back. Jordan Phillips was a little bit of a shock to me. Doesn't really fit what we needed in the middle when it came to just the style of play. He's not going to really help the run game at all, the run defense. And he's also, as we know, had injury problems in the past. So who knows if he stays healthy and if Carter comes back. I believe Carter is projected to come back a little bit late in the regular season, if not the playoffs. I'm interested to see if he's the one out of the two that kind of get the boot if they do need to make spot for him. Jefferson, though, I think fits a little bit more and a little bit better, but at the same time, he's not exactly a huge game changer, but he knows the system. He knows McDermott's system, and they decided to bring both of them back. So I get why they did. There wasn't really a huge market for D tackles, and I think the price for D tackles at the trade deadline were a little bit more than McDermott wanted. So they end up going with two guys that know the defense, know Buffalo, and want to be here. So I guess they're banking on, hey, that energy that Jordan Phillips brings and that want to be here for maybe Jefferson and Phillips is that difference. And we'll see how they do. But at the end of the day, not a game-changing, huge move, but at least we'll see how it is. And we know Jordan Phillips loves to be in Buffalo and play for the Bills. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, Zion Logue was the name I couldn't think of, so I apologize for that slipping. But yeah, that's the other, and they re-signed in the practice squad. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, and then Smoot went down too. Dwayne Smoot with another wrist injury. Shocker. Yeah, Phillips and Jefferson, like they're both big bodies. They're not going to move the needle a ton, I don't think. But in the middle of the season when you have guys go down, that's about as well as you can do without making a big trade. So a lot of people say like, well, they know the scheme. They play defensive tackle. The scheme is hit the guy in front of you and eat gaps. Like that doesn't really matter. But yeah, they're guys that they're familiar with. They're guys that, at least in Jordan Phillips' case, wants to be here. His quote about being an acquired taste and they like the way I taste here, I thought that was pretty funny. And if nothing less, Jordan Phillips is a fan favorite. He's going to get people fired up. He's going to wear the broken table cleats. Like people are going to be cheering for him. So maybe, that helps the rest of the defense with some energy. But yeah, not like huge needle mover moves, but you got two NFL vets at D tackle without having to get up any draft capital. I'd say that's a win.
Yeah, kind of odd though that Dwan Smoot really goes down, and they choose to bring in two interior guys. And I know Smoot had played a good bit of interior, but also listed as a defensive end and an edge player as well, and has had some time on the edge or at the defensive end positions. So they didn't really address that in a way where I don't think any of these guys can really flex out either. So now you're down to really five edge rushers and defensive ends when you've had some problems and some issues getting a lot of pressure on a quarterback. So I think that it's an interesting move from the roster construction standpoint, and we'll see how they're able to move forward and really, I'm hoping that these guys can help other guys really get pressure, because that's going to be the biggest thing as we start to get into this gauntlet at the end of the, towards the meat of the schedule here. When we get past Indianapolis, it becomes, Chiefs and then Niners, and then you have Rams and Lions, and those games are going to be pretty important to be able to get some pressure. And we'll see, what that looks like with this roster construction on the defensive line. All right. And then last quick thought segment, guys, is just, give us your thoughts on what your confidence level is now in Tyler Bass. He had a 61-yard field goal there, franchise record field goal. And does that give you any boost of confidence?
Yeah, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Yes, it gives me a little bit more, but at the end of the day, he still missed an extra point, and he's still got a lot to do for me to have full confidence back in him, but it's a good sign.
Yeah, I wouldn't say my confidence is all the way back in him, but him making that big kick, if that makes his confidence all the way back in himself, that's really all that matters. So hopefully that helps him going in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree. My confidence doesn't matter much, but I think that's almost a career-changing field goal there, where he can use that to propel himself now and have the confidence and hopefully move forward and start making those kicks.
Yeah, I believe though that does bring us into we're gonna take some questions beforehand before we get into defense, offense. No 1 minutes this week. We're gonna take a little bit of a break from those, as we've been doing them for at this point. I want to say 6 months now. At this point, we've been doing them, so gonna take a little break from them and just take some questions from you guys. So we got two of them before we get talking about the defense here, the Bills' defense here. First one here is from Nathaniel, and then it says, "Hey Scott, longtime fan, first time questioner. Uh, any college players you've had your eye on that you'd like to see the Bills target in next year's draft?" So we'll start with you, Scott, since you are the one that is being called out. So what do you got?
Sure. Appreciate the question, Nathaniel. Always nice to hear from a fan. One guy for me is a receiver out of Texas, Isaiah Bond. I wouldn't be shocked if the Bills go receiver again in this year's draft class, depending on what they do with free agency. But Isaiah Bond out of Texas, he just transferred in from Alabama. He's fast. He's decent size, 5'11", so like kind of mid-size. But he's somebody that I think would fit in well in this offense. Is kind of a deep threat to complement Keon Coleman on the other side, being that contested catch guy.
I'd like to see Marlo Wax come from Syracuse to Buffalo just because I like Syracuse. He's an inside linebacker. We've having, problems keeping our linebackers healthy here. So getting another linebacker, young linebacker in the system to keep going, and it's a Syracuse guy, make me happy.
I'm not going to go with a specific name. I'm just going to go with a group just because it's kind of early to say where guys are ranked and who you're really looking at this point, seeing where the Bills are going to draft and so on. So I'm just going to go. I think you got to look at edge. I know that you just signed up and that's that you got Rousseau, but Von Miller is going to be gone soon. You know how they like to rotate in, and there's not really a huge, there's not really a huge or one position group that is dominating this draft. It's kind of a weaker overall draft, and edge, if there is a group that is dominant in this class, it would be edge. So I think you got to look at edge a little bit. I know some people might not love the idea of edge rushers, especially with how Brandon Beane has fared the past few years with edge rushers. I know the Boogie Basham still kind of haunts people with that pick, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to bring a guy in, especially because depending on how much Rousseau is going to want, there is a chance that they end up having to bring somebody else in just to replace him if they can't get him signed. So it's a little bit early for me to throw out names. But yeah, we'll see once we get closer to December, January, when guys start getting ranked a little bit more and you start seeing where guys might get drafted a little bit more. So yeah, I'm just gonna go with edge at least. Next question we got here.
I don't even know if Marlo Wax is really draft eligible this year or not, but I'm assuming he is. He's been playing at Syracuse for what seems like 5 years now.
I actually didn't hear the name you said, to be honest.
Marlo Wax is the player.
Yeah.
Stowe said Abdul Carter would be his pick. I don't think he'll be available when the Bills are picking because hopefully we're later in the draft, but maybe a team earlier in the draft like the Packers might be able to pick him up.
Yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, though, we've seen guys. Keon Coleman was a guy that at this time last year was surefire mid-first round pick, and he ended up falling to the second round. So obviously we'll see what happens once it gets closer. But the next question is not really a question. It just was a comment that I thought we might talk about here a little bit. Nicholas says, would have liked to see the Bills go after another shifty slot guy. Hunter Renfrow would have moved the needle for me on Tuesday's deadline. He is a free agent still. There are some free agents, so that kind of brought me to the question of, is there any free agent wide receiver out there that you're still like saying, hey, we should give this guy a shot? Let's go with you first, Lance. I know that there's not exactly the best pick of the litter there, but there are some names out there. Michael Thomas, Corey Davis is still out there. Chase Claypool is still technically a free agent, so if you want to bring him back. So what do you think, those, Lance? Do you got any names out there that you kind of are saying, hey, let's give him a shot here?
I mean, if Claypool's healthy and able to come in, depending on where he left off with, the scheme and stuff, I'd say if he can come in and kind of contribute fairly quickly. But I mean, if you're bringing anybody else in, it's going to take them longer to get up to speed than it is for these guys to get back, hopefully. So I don't really think that it's really worth it.
Yeah, the guy who maybe would be for me is like Hunter Renfrow. He's that slot receiver, Cole Beasley, Edelman type. But yeah, like a guy like Chase Claypool, he hasn't really shown much over the past couple of years. So I think elevating a guy like Virgil is probably the way to go. He knows the offense. He's been here. Josh is comfortable throwing him the ball. So yeah, I'm cool with the guys they have, assuming they can get healthy.
One guy that I'm actually a little bit curious about, and he brings that speed aspect that I actually just saw Dave Myers, shout out Dave Myers, him talking about that the Bills need some speed, and that's Damiere Byrd. I mean, he ran a 4.28 apparently. That was a while ago, but at the end of the day, he could bring some speed there for you. So I think a guy that brings speed. I know, even Michael Thomas is a name that's still out there as well, but I don't think he really fits what the Bills might not need a guy like Michael Thomas, especially if he's still sitting there. There's really a reason that he's still sitting there, and he's battled with injuries, and it's been an up and down thing for him. So I think Claypool I wouldn't mind bringing back just because again he knows a little bit with Josh Allen there, but there's not really the best options out there. But we brought back two guys that used to be Bills, and there is also one other name out there that could potentially be a guy that Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane look at, and it's Isaiah McKenzie. I don't know how much fans would feel about that. I know a lot of people love McKenzie, at least off the field. On the field, there was a little bit of mixed emotions there. So we'll see if they do end up bringing in a receiver and if they do end up signing anybody. But I would probably lean towards they would probably not, just unless Keon and Amari's injuries really are that bad and Amari has a huge setback. But we'll see. So let us know if you guys do have any comments. Again, we'll probably get to a little bit more before we talk about the Bills' offense. So put them in the comments there, and we'll get to them a little bit later. But it is time to talk about the Bills' defense. Last week, I believe we talked about defense first again, so we're going to just keep it the same and go defense here again. And the Bills' defense is going up against an offense that has been a little bit underwhelming, I think, to what expectations were. They started off the season with Anthony Richardson at quarterback. He gets benched. Now Joe Flacco comes back. And Joe Flacco, we know what he did with Cleveland. Now he's in Indy. Indy is saying, hey, we're hoping that you could do the same thing that you did in Cleveland for us. So first question is about Joe Flacco. It's the question that people have been asking about him since he was even on Baltimore. Is Joe Flacco elite? Obviously, not so much as the actual question that I'm going to be asking, but what do you guys think about Joe Flacco and just what can he do for this Colts offense that is bottom third in the passing and just not good at all in total offense? So we'll start with you, Lance. What do you think about Joe Flacco in this offense for Indy against the Bills defense?
I do not think Joe Flacco is elite by any means. He does have a .02 positive EPA per drop back, with an average time to throw 2.67 seconds, which tells me he can probably get the ball out on time and in a rhythm. But if you disrupt that rhythm, he's a statue back there, and he's very susceptible to taking a sack. So if guys like Greg Rousseau can take advantage of their matchups there, I think that Joe Flacco is going to have a tough day.
Joe Flacco was elite. There's just something about the way he throws the football. He throws a very catchable spiral, so that'd at least be fun to watch on Sunday. There's a reason that the Colts decided to start Joe Flacco over Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson, their 4th overall pick last year. You think they want to see him develop, but they decided to start Flacco because they think that he gives them the best chance to win right now.
No, they think that Anthony Richardson took himself out of the game, and he's an idiot, so that's why they're benching him.
I don't think that's it.
I think that definitely played a factor maybe into the final decision, but yeah, I think his play was also I think it was a combo, to be honest. It was just, hey, you took yourself out and you are not playing well at all. And
yeah. Like the Colts have a roster that they think they can make the playoffs with, and they think Joe Flacco gives them a better chance to do that than Anthony Richardson. And like Anthony Richardson just hasn't played a lot of football. Like he's been hurt a lot. He was hurt in college. He was hurt in high school. So what he needs most is to play. And what they're saying by playing Joe Flacco is that they think he gives them the better chance to make the playoffs this year. Is Joe Flacco worrisome? Is he still elite? Absolutely not. But, like you said, he will play smart. He'll throw you a pick or two. Like he's going to take some risks. But and with no Pittman, that's very big for them. Like I said, Michael Pittman is out. But with Flacco, what you're going to get. He's going to get the ball out quick. He's going to throw to his first reads, and they're going to run the ball a lot, with Jonathan Taylor, who's going to talk about next. So I don't think we have to worry about Joe Flacco tearing us apart, but he will manage the game correctly and be a veteran and probably won't do anything too dumb.
Yeah, he's kind of to me, he's kind of in the middle of like that. He's not Jameis Winston where he's going to be throwing the ball around. And he's going to throw 5 interceptions. He's not Mason Rudolph where he's going to run around a little bit. Even though Rudolph doesn't like to run, he can get out of the pocket a little bit. He's that guy that, again, like Scott said, will get the ball out quick. He's not going to wow you with amazing plays, but he'll do what needs to be done, and he'll keep them at least in the game if their defense can keep them in the game. That's the way I look at it. He is a game manager that, unless the defense for the Colts is getting crushed, this game could end up being a closer one. Again, just due to the fact that they have a solid run game there with Jonathan Taylor, which we'll get to in a second. And they do have a guy that I think could be Joe Flacco's. I mean, he's already looking like he's Joe Flacco's number one target and could be a guy that could beat the Bills, and that's Josh Downs. So, I mean, Flacco, he'll look underneath, he'll look to get the ball out quick, but at the end of the day, the Bills have played better quarterbacks this season, and they should be able to beat a guy like Joe Flacco handily, especially because this offensive line has been up and down for Indy, and they're battling. I saw it in the comments there that they put their center on IR, and they're battling just some unfortunate times with their offensive line. But Joe Flacco at the end of the day, he's not elite, and the Bills have played better quarterbacks this year. So next question though, I did just talk about him, Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, we all know about Jonathan Taylor. He's a phenomenal running back in this league. He's also battled injuries though in his time. He even battled them this year a little bit. But the Bills' defense has struggled against the run, and if Joe Flacco can somehow keep him in this game and just make those big throws, and Jonathan Taylor's getting the job done on the ground, the Colts' offense could move the ball a little bit. So I want to just ask you guys, we'll start with you, Scott. Can the Bills slow down Jonathan Taylor, and can they dominate up front enough to make that kind of take him out of the game a little bit? What do you think?
They're going to have to. I think the biggest way for the Bills to slow down Jonathan Taylor isn't with their defense, it's with their offense. They got to come out hot. They got to get a lead. They got to make them just abandon the run and try to beat us passing the ball, which would be ideal. But like, it reminds me of the last time we played the Colts in 2021. The Colts got a lead. They ran it down our throats for 60 minutes. Like, it was never close. We couldn't stop them. So I know their center is hurt. Their guards are banged up, and maybe just not that good in general. But Jonathan Taylor's only played 6 games this year, and he already has over 500 yards. Like, he's a top probably 3 to 5 running back in the league when he's healthy. And he already missed some games this year. He's been back the last 2 weeks. He's looked solid. So I would say he's as close to healthy as he gets. So the best way to slow down Jonathan Taylor could just be with the offense getting a lead. Like, this is one of those games, like, if they win the coin toss, maybe you take the ball and try to go score. So yeah, they're going to have to do their best to slow him down. But if the Bills get behind early and the Colts are able to kind of lean on us and run the ball, it could be a long afternoon.
For sure. I agree with that. French fries is not going to be out there in front of Jonathan Taylor. So those guys are both hurt. And Wesley French and Will Fries, for those that don't know. And I'm not, maybe he pronounces that Freeze, I don't know. But I forgot this was the team with the French fries linemen. So that's pretty cool. And, going to be interesting seeing Tanner Bortolini out there. Out of Wisconsin. We talked about him a lot in the offseason as potential target for the Bills even. So it'd be cool to watch him. Obviously, they have the best offensive lineman in the league in Quentin Nelson, great last name, and just, one of the better offensive linemen in the league. So I think they'll still be able, he can't, as strong as Nelson's may be, I don't think he can do it himself. So I think that, the Bills defense has a chance here to set a tone and, getting penetration here on these younger guys, out physicaling these guys, I think is going to be important, winning at the point of attack. And I think they can do it and slow Jonathan Taylor down, but Jonathan Taylor is definitely a talented back in his own right. So even if they have everything buttoned up on their end, it wouldn't surprise me to see him, break a 30 to 50 yarder at some point, whether that goes for a touchdown or not. But I just think he has that ability, and we may see that this week.
Yeah, I think, Jonathan Taylor is a guy that when he's on the field, it's hard to really slow him down. I mean, you're not going to completely stop him. He'll, like Lance said, he might break one big one, he might break 2 big ones. But at the end of the day, you have to at least get those big stops, right? It's going to be those 1st and 10s. You can't give up 6 yards on first down consistently. If you're going to do that, then again, Joe Flacco will find guys to get those 2 yards, 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards. So yeah, I think it's going to end up coming down to first down runs. And if you can stop them on first down, and I think they will heavily lean on Jonathan Taylor on first down. And I think even in the passing game, Jonathan Taylor is going to be a guy that you're going to have to watch out, because Bills in the past have had running backs beat him out of the backfield. Number one that we've always seen is Devon Achane, and even Achane week 2, you saw him beat him. And at a point, the Bills also say, hey, you can beat us in that area, but you're not going to beat us in other areas. But with a guy like Pittman out, I think you should put a little bit more attention on Jonathan Taylor out of the backfield, as well as on first down just in general. So he should be the guy they look to slow down. It's going to be hard to do, but he's their really major threat on this offense. There's not really another guy that can beat you as consistent as Jonathan Taylor. I mean, like we said, we had Josh Downs there, who is a very good receiver, but at the end of the day, you got to get him the ball. And if you're shutting down Josh Downs, then Jonathan Taylor becomes your guy that you're going to have to lean on, and they probably will lean on him a lot. So we'll see what happens with Jonathan Taylor and the rushing attack, but it's going to be huge for the Bills defense to get some big stops, especially on first down for me. Before we do, who needs to step up and who is the defensive MVP? We got one question. Who is going to be the biggest threat to the Bills defense for this offense? We kind of just answered this, so it doesn't have to be a long answer, I guess. I mean, mine is going to be obvious. I'm going to go with Jonathan Taylor, and I don't know if you guys even are going to have the same answers. I wouldn't be shocked if you guys do. So we'll go with you, Lance. Is there anybody that, besides even Jonathan Taylor, I guess, that you think could be a huge threat to the Bills defense?
Yeah, I was going to say Josh Downs. I think that, he is, going to be their best receiver. He's the, outside of Michael Pittman, leader in targets, does a great job, has the highest catch percentage on the team. So I think that he gets he has the most yak yards on the team. So to me, he's the biggest threat outside of Jonathan Taylor. I will agree, Taylor probably is the biggest one. But if we're gonna go away from the guy we just spent 15 minutes talking about, then I'll go with Josh Downs.
Yeah, because I was going to say those two. I'll go with Alec Pierce, their deep threat. He has more yards than Josh Downs on about half the catches. So he's a guy that, if you let him get behind the defense, he's going to make you pay. So you have to make sure Flacco doesn't get us too much. He still has that strong arm.
22.3 air yards per target. That's crazy.
We'll also see a guy that's going to have to step up as well for the Colts, that I know some Bills fans, especially this offseason before the draft, were saying, hey, we should go get him, and that's Adonai Mitchell. He's a guy that hasn't gotten a ton of at least targets for the Colts. I mean, when you have Pittman, Downs, and Pierce ahead of you, it's a little tough to kind of get out on the field as consistent as you want. But now that Pittman's out, you're going to see him. But you have even seen a guy like Ashton Doolin kind of get playing time and targets over at Adonai Mitchell. So we'll see if Mitchell makes a mark this game. He's a guy that I was very intrigued about during the draft time. But we'll see if maybe this is a game that can kind of get him kickstarted with just a little bit more of an opportunity. But yeah, at the end of the day, though, not too many guys that are game changers like a Jonathan Taylor on this Colts offense. So we'll see how the Bills attack it. But now it's time. Who needs to step up? Who will be our defensive MVP? Let's go with Scott to start this one. Who needs to step up, and who is going to be the MVP?
I'm going to go with Facebook user here. I think Oliver needs to step up. We just talked about it. Their center's out. They're down on their backup guards. He's an undrafted free agent to begin with. We're going to need Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones, and maybe our new old friends, Jordan Phillips, Quentin Johnson, to get in the backfield, or Austin Johnson, get in the backfield, make some plays. And then, if the linebackers the linemen just eat blocks like they're supposed to, we need our linebackers, Terrell Bernard, Dorian Williams, come in, clean it up, make the tackle at the line of scrimmage. So I think big statistical game for our linebackers, but TB, obviously, he's a stud, so I'll go with him for MVP.
Yeah, I think Dorian Williams needs to step up, or Cam Lewis, whomever's playing opposite of Terrell Bernard. I think that guy needs to, Dorian Williams is the leader in tackles, so I think he can, handle it. I'm not saying he hasn't been good, at tackling folks. Obviously, leading the team in that is great. But if he's left in the passing game, he's going to have to do his part there. And otherwise, Sam Lewis will be in that role, and so he'll have to do his part in that. And that's going to be going along with Josh Downs being the guy I thought that could hurt us. Those guys are going to be likely patrolling the parts of the field that Downs might be occupying. So they're going to need to be having a stellar game and be able to bring home the win for us. I think that Greg Rousseau will be the MVP. I think he's going to have a huge part in stopping the run and then also being able to get to Flacco.
For me, I'm going to go with DeMar Hamlin needs to step up. We just talked about especially a guy like Alec Pierce who has the deep threat ability. And if the Colts, again, that's another thing that the Colts are going to probably look for outside of Jonathan Taylor is those big plays and those plays that can say, hey, we're not going to go away without a fight. So I think Hamlin and I guess Rapp are going to have to be on alert for over the top. So I'm going to go with those two. And then for my MVP, I'm gonna go with Ed Oliver. I think Ed Oliver has a very good game this Sunday. He's been a guy that people are they've been kind of up and down on him this year. I know a lot of people have been very disappointed in him, but at the end of the day, I think he ends up having a strong finish to the season. I think this could be a game that kind of kickstarts him and gets him going into what we saw last year. So I'm going to go with Ed Oliver MVP, stepping up the two safeties in general. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to do there. And it's time for questions before we get into the offense. Scott, would you like to take over the questions that we got here? We got two of them that we'll take.
Sure. First one, we'll go Matt Milano. Nick is asking when do we think he's going to be back? I think they're saying December is the plan for that. So my guess would be that sometime after the bye week, soon after the bye week, they open up his 21-day window and then try to ease him back through practice. Then we get him back mid-December, something like that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think he gets back for the Jets game. I think he's going to be, like you said, opening the window sooner than that. Obviously allows him to get back. Just trying to check the date. Yeah, 12/29. I had it in my head and I just didn't want to misspeak. But yeah, I think the Jets game at home in week 17 there is going to be the target for me on when he actually plays snaps.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be 17 or even 18, just depending on where the Bills are standings, what they're looking like there. I think that no matter what, even if let's say they're clinched by week 17, 18, and the seeding doesn't look to change too much, I still think that they will look to get him out in the field before the playoffs. You want him to get some live playing time, so we'll see what happens there with Matt Milano. But at the end of the day, he's a guy that the Bills need back and will be big once he does get back. And as Facebook user said, don't rush him back there.
Then another one from our friend Nate here. What's everybody's favorite type of food on game day? I know Lance's chicken wings. I like throwing out the grill, making up a good brat, nice bratwurst, maybe something cheese filled like that. Anything that isn't those vegetarian grill stuff, I'll eat.
Yeah. Lance kind of was just said there with the chicken wings we got. But mine,
kind of our thing in Buffalo here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with I'm a huge Buffalo chicken wing dip. And yes, Nathaniel, I am a dipper. It's a big chicken wing dip guy with the chips and the dip there. If you put that in front of me, it's a dangerous game to do if you put that in front of me. So I'm going to go with chicken wing dip there.
Outside of chicken wings, though, I just had this the other day. It was great rye bread with some dill dip there. That's a fantastic combination on game day.
A lot of good things out there.
Nathaniel also put in some interesting comments about climate change. So, just, hey, do your own research. That's all I'm going to say. All right. Move along to the offense. This is going to be a game, like we mentioned. A lot of receivers are hurt. they're probably going to have to run the ball. We're going to have to let James Cook, Ray Davis probably sees an increased role. The Colts run defense is 31st in the NFL. For those of you who don't know, there are only 32 teams in the NFL. So that is not exactly good. And then specifically, their run defense, teams play a lot of cover 2 shell against the Bills, as we know, try to contain Josh Allen. The Colts are dead last in the league in run defense out of a cover 2 base defense. And good news for the Bills, they are first in the league in running against a cover 2 defense. So do you guys think the Bills are going to have to lean on the run game in this game? And kind of on the other side for the Colts, do we think they're still going to play a cover 2 shell against Josh Allen, knowing our receivers are out and knowing those statistics I just gave you? Lance, thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they play this Bills offense with this personnel, and then it'll be interesting to see, what personnel the Bills do trot out there to try to force them into that too high shell, because obviously they know those statistics as well, and they want the Colts to be in that formation such that they can have success in the running game. But given that your deep threat in Amari Cooper is not necessarily going to be there, you don't know how much respect they really have for a guy like Jalen Virgil. Shakir is not a burner down the field. So really, Curtis Samuel, can he break out? Can he, take
Show
the top
up.
out of the defense? We'll see if he burns them early, and they don't play that too high, then I think that could get them back into what they would typically do with the too high shell, and then we'll have success. So we may need to pass to set up the run in this instance when it comes to getting them in that sort of defense that they like.
Yeah, I think you got to lean on the run game, especially because the Colts are not a blitzing team, so they're not going to be bringing the house a lot, and you're going to have guys that, it's kind of shocking that the Colts do struggle against the run, because you have DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart there right in the middle. I know that Buckner has been more of a force in the pass rush game, but at the end of the day, those are two guys that if you had him on the Bills defense, I think a lot of people would be happy there at the defensive tackle position. So yeah, I think you got to lean on it. You got to take advantage of the fact that you've been successful in the run and that you can dominate against a team like the Colts, who, like I said, they're not going to bring the house a lot. They're not going to blitz you a lot. They have the 7th lowest rate in blitzing. So for a fact that a lot of times, unless they completely change their game plan this week, a lot of times they're going to just let you go and let you play that 2 shell there and just play, hey, we're going to have as many guys in coverage. We're not going to blitz you, because also when you do blitz Josh Allen, usually bad things happen. So I don't think the Colts will want to blitz, and I think that they'll look to say, hey, we're going to try to slow down the passing game and slow down Josh Allen. In turn, that might bring them to pay a little bit less attention to the run game as you might think. So I do think you're going to have to lean on the run game heavily against this Colts defense there.
Yeah, the Colts could kind of have like a similar strategy to the Bills on defense most of the time, where like the Bills are okay giving up some rushing yards, but they don't want to get beat over the top on big plays. And then, when you get to the red zone, they kind of tighten up. So kind of maybe similar thing for the Colts. They may, play that shell. They're okay with James Cook, getting 4 or 5 yards of carry, like getting them down. Then once they get down into like close to the red area, they tighten things up, make things tight for Josh, and don't give him any wins those to throw in. For the Bills, as a way to try to make them stay in that cover 2, I could see them going a lot of spread, like kind of spread out the defense, thin it out, and then hand it off the middle to Cook, Davis, Johnson. Take your pick.
Who are they going to use the spread, though? They got like 3 receivers to use out there.
Kincaid and Knox can go out in the slot.
Exactly my point. They're going to have to use a lot of Kincaid and Knox, as one of our commenters said. I think that you're going to have to see Knox and Kincaid play a big role. I think if they do what you mentioned and they kind of try to tighten up inside the red zone there, that you have guys like Kincaid and Shakir that are going to be really good in those areas where they can beat their man and find the holes in the defense and be able to get yards after the catch as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of brings us right into our next topic. With this receiving core, we'll add the tight ends into that. They're all pass catchers. National Tight End Day just happened. Shout out tight ends. Obviously, it's a depleted group, but do we think that this group, tight ends included, Ben, we'll start with you, has enough to win this game?
See, this one's tough for me because we just talked about how they don't really like the blitz. They will kind of play that Bills style defense, and they're going to pay attention to the passing game. And the one reason why I'm a little bit concerned is because of the fact of the two up front that I had mentioned a second ago, DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart. DeForest Buckner was inactive weeks 2 through 7. That could also play a factor into how the Colts defense played and how they kind of how things went for them. But when he's on the field, their pressure rate goes up, and it goes up a lot. It jumps from 30.4% to 44.4%. I don't know if anybody watched the Vikings game last week for the Colts and Vikings, but man, were those two, Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner, wreaking havoc. I know the Colts still lost the game, but at the end of the day, these guys are going to get after Josh Allen, and I know Josh Allen can extend plays, but if you're going to have him running around as much as at least Sam Darnold had to at least look out for those two last week, you're going to have some issues, especially if you have guys that aren't separating. So that's my big worry, is if you have weapons that aren't separating at a rate that you are hoping, that guys like Buckner and Stewart can get back there and really slow the Bills offense down. So we'll see. I'll say this. I'm not completely my confidence level is kind of lower, a lot lower than maybe I'd hoped, but it's not to the point where I'm worried about this offense not being able to put up points. So I have confidence in this receiving core, but not as much as I would hope against at least a team like the Colts.
Lance?
Yeah, so where were we at? Sorry, we got distracted by the comments.
The comment crew is great tonight, so keep them coming.
Very good. With the receiving core, we still on the receiving core and playing the shit. Yeah, so I agree. I mean, like I kind of said, I think that I hit my microphone. Apologize. So technical difficulties and comment section are taking me out tonight. As I said, I think Kincaid and Knox can be a big factor in this. I think Shakir, when they get down in the close areas and have to win one-on-one matchups, he can do that. And I think he's going to be a big part of it. But I think the running back play a big role in the passing game, like Ben mentioned earlier, too. So I think you're going to see maybe some Ray Davis and James Cook out on the field at the same time, maybe even flanking either side of Josh Allen, maybe making the Colts decide which one they want to play and then handing it off to the other potentially. So we'll have to see how that goes. And then you also have, Josh Allen in the mix to give them some offense and some potential there. So not a huge fan of the idea of Allen taking off in week 10, but it is a point in time where I think we do, need to get this one. I think it's not a must-win game, but it's definitely a winnable game. And if we want to have any shot at the highest seed, we do need to take care of business this week. And when you're down players, guys like Josh Allen may have to shoulder a little bit more of the load.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the next two games on the Bills schedule, being the Chiefs, being the Niners. Those are probably the two Super Bowl favorites coming into the season. This game at the Colts is, like you said, maybe not a must-win at 7-2 and with the lead they have in the division, but be real nice, having a little bit more a little more wiggle room. Like if they win this game and then split those, and you're 9-3, I think you're feeling pretty good. So, yeah, that's definitely a good point there. We talked about it on the Colts offense. Who you think is the biggest threat to the Bills defense? Flip it over to the Colts defense. Who do you think is the biggest threat to the Bills offense? I'll start. DeForest Buckner. Just like he's a dog on the defensive line. Like he's a game wrecker. He's somebody that if they don't know where he is and they're not exactly sure how they're going to block him, he'll be in the backfield really quickly. So that's definitely something you have to look out for. Like you mentioned, Ben, more so in the pass game than maybe the run game. But definitely, we can't have somebody like that blowing up a passing attack. Ben, who do you got?
I'm going to go with EJ Speed and Zaire Franklin. I know I kind of just went on a huge
only pick one.
Then I'm going to go with Zaire Franklin.
No, we're supposed to go with EJ Speed. I'm going with Zaire Franklin.
All right, I'll go with EJ Speed. EJ Speed, he is another guy that, like Franklin, can fly across the field. They'll make plays. He'll make tackles. But yeah, I kind of just talked about Buckner and Stewart for a while, but what can those two open up? It can open up for the linebackers there. So EJ Speed, I'm going to be on alert there to see if they kind of use him a little bit differently and see how he can play against the Bills' run game, because I do think that they will lean on it. And I think he'll be a guy that needs to step up for the Colts. So he's a guy that could be a big factor for the Bills offense.
Yeah, I obviously gonna take Zaire Franklin, the Syracuse product, and say that he has a ton of stops this year too. 50 stops over the year, 96 tackles. Not giving up too many yards in the passing game either. Has an interception, has a pretty low QB rating against. So Zaire Franklin is going to be a problem trying to take away what the Bills are trying to do.
Yeah. So now, like we do every week, who needs to step up? Who's going to be the MVP? I'm going to say step up Khalil Shakir, because he's kind of the only guy left in that receiving room, at least out of the normal group. Mac Hollins and Curtis Samuel will be out there, but Shakir is that guy that Josh is really going to look to go to. So we're going to need him to have a big day. And then MVP, we go with James Cook. We mentioned all the stats about the Colts running defense. It's not good. So we need James Cook to cook. Lance, who you got?
Yeah, as far as who needs to step up, it's going to be these receivers outside of Khalil Shakir. I really think that if I have to pick on one, it's going to be Curtis Samuel, right? You just have to be something. You have to do something, and you were signed to be able to produce here, and we haven't seen it yet. So I'm going to go with James Cook being the MVP again, and just thinking that we're going to rely on him. And I think that Ray Davis probably took that over last game a little bit with his production, but I think James Cook is still the tried and true number one.
I'm going to need to step up. I'm going to go with David Edwards and Osiris Torrance, kind of just the guards there. They should be able to dominate at least on the ground again, and they're going to have their hands full, though, on the passing game with the two that we've been talking about, Buckner and Stewart. So I think they're going to need to step up. MVP, I'm going to go with Khalil Shakir, just because I think against Khalil Shakir will get a lot of targets. He'll be that head guy. He'll be the number one, and he'll need to be that guy that makes every catch, and he's made almost every catch or ball that's been thrown his way this season. So I think he'll have a huge game this week, and I think he'll find the end zone, because that's the one thing that Khalil Shakir has been lacking this season. It's been total touchdowns. So I do think he finds the end zone this week.
Those are all good points. Wonder where you heard them. Yeah, you mentioned him having the catches, and we talked about earlier. Khalil Shakir broke the record for most consecutive targets caught. You see, ESPN wrote a whole article about Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown having 30 straight, and I don't think anything got mentioned about Josh and Shakir breaking the record when they did.
I did not see that.
Yeah,
that's Detroit, always in the headlines.
Yep. No respect over here. All right. Well,
got anything else on the offense?
I think that concludes our offensive talk there. And outside of that, it's time to kind of give our Friday free play triple coverage parlay of the week, since it's been asked for in the comments here. We'll each give a pick, and you can parlay those. We have no responsibility in how much you wager, and don't wager more than you can. But this is fun. We'll try to go more than 1 and 2 out of our picks here, with Scott being the only one correct typically. But we're going to try to improve on that from last week. And go ahead, Scott. You can start, so Ben has a minute to go look up a game before he just picks the one off the top of the sheet.
Yeah, Ben's strategy is picking the first game he sees. He's 1-1 doing that. So.
And I was close. I was close last week. I'll say that.
Yeah, we went 2-2 in our show picks last week, and I went 2-0.
There you go.
But yeah, my favorite college pick this week is BYU -3. They're on the road at Utah. and it is a rivalry game, but Vegas just does not respect BYU. When BYU went to UCF was a 2.5-point favorite, and BYU beat them by 3 touchdowns. Earlier in the year, they had another one. I can't remember who they played. Or Baylor. Went to Baylor, and they were 2.5-point underdogs, and they won by 3 touchdowns. BYU is a good team. Utah is on their 3rd-string quarterback. It kind of looks like they've quit on the season. So I'm going to go with BYU as my pick of the week in college. And then NFL prop bet, trying to do a parlay. James Cook over rushing yards. That one just seems too easy. But I think it's around like 65 last time I looked. That seems like he'll hit that.
Yeah, right on. I'm going to go with the over in the Notre Dame game against Florida State, over 42.5, as well as Georgia minus 1.5 against Ole Miss. I like both of those. In the NFL, I'm going to take James Cook 2+ rushing touchdowns in this game, or 2+ touchdowns. Well, it doesn't have to be rushing.
I'm going to go NCAA I'm going to go Navy 3.5 over USF. USF this season has not really played anybody that great, and the times that they have, it has not been pretty. So I do think, I know Navy hasn't exactly had the best schedule either, but I think Navy 3.5, that game will be a good one. But I do think they pull it out in South Florida against USF. NFL, I'm going to go with, let's see here. That's the one I didn't look at, Scott. So I'm going to take that. Let's go with, I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers money line. All right. They won last week against the Saints. They play the Giants this week at 9:30 in the morning. It's a great line, plus 220. So I'm taking the Carolina Panthers to beat the New York Giants outright. And then the Giants will make a move in the coaching department. I do think Dable, if he ends up losing this game,
they leave him there.
They could. I think at the end of the season, he could end up losing his job at the end of the season. But if they lose to the Panthers, that could be one of those games that they look at and they're saying you can't lose to the Panthers. I mean, you saw the Panthers end up when they beat the Saints. I believe that was the last game of the season for I'm blanking on who they just fired. Dennis Allen. So it was his last game was against the Panthers and a loss there. So maybe they end up getting 2 coaches booted after if they do end up pulling it out against the Giants. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, it's
we got a couple other.
The owners already said though that they're not going to fire them this year, so they've got a little bit of a leash. But we'll see how true his words were, I guess.
Losing to the Panthers.
Other quick questions. Oh yeah, there you go.
I
Penn
got
State and Washington.
I got Penn State minus 13, and I'll take the over on 46.5.
I also like the over. Washington can score some points, and Penn State's defense isn't as good as everyone thinks. I was looking at some stats. They're like 17th in pressure, but only like 51st in sacks. Will Rogers, veteran quarterback, started for 4 years at Mississippi State. He should be able to get the ball out quickly. I think Penn State wins, but yeah, I think that over hits as well. We'll see what Drew Aller shows up. So, because you never know with him.
I'm going to go with Scott there. I think that Penn State wins, but I do think Washington covers the spread. So I'm going to go with Washington covering the spread there. Penn State ends up winning it, but we shall see.
And then one upset. Someone asked for that. I'll give you Texas Tech to beat Colorado. Money line. Go on and take Texas Tech money line. That's my upset pick.
I'm just going to keep mine consistent with I think if there is going to be an upset, Miami plays Georgia Tech. You might think I'm a major Miami hater this season because I've just been against Miami the past 2 weeks. Not necessarily a hater, but I do think they're a team that could end up dropping it. If there is an upset this week, Georgia Tech could pull it out.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Syracuse Orange. I know it's a shocker to be a Syracuse fan here and taking Syracuse over Boston College. They're a 2-point underdog here in this game. So to me, that's an upset if they win, and I'm going to take them +2.
Question for Nathaniel. What if the blind man in the box is listening to a lot of podcasts? He could know a lot.
And according to Facebook user as well here.
This is true.
Yeah, so it's the Packers. So if the Packers played them last week, they lost the Lions. Everybody who has played the Lions, I think I don't know if it's every week, but at least for like the last 8 weeks, it's been every team.
Yeah, that's a true one.
So
yeah.
Packers, I don't know who they're playing this week. Let me see here. They play the Bears. So take the Bears, I guess,
Take the
this
Bears.
week.
Right on. Well, we appreciate everyone for viewing this episode of Triple Coverage. We had a great comment section, very entertaining. We had a lot of fun with you guys. Come back next week and let's do it again. And with that said, go Bills.